Matt Rhule Sweepstakes have finally begun. Matt Rhule has been fired by the Carolina Panthers. It did not go well in Carolina, but Matt Rhule is probably the number one, no doubt, the number one target of many athletic directors to become the new head football coach at their university. Matt Rhule has been fired. We know the incredible success of Matt Rhule in college football. He turned Temple into a very competitive program. Temple Owls in a very competitive program. Then became the head coach of the Baylor Bears when they were down and out because of incredible scandal down in Waco, Texas. What did he do there? Wow. Unbelievable. We'll bring up his record here in a little bit. But this is a live show. We had to do it. Open discussions on all things college football. We have a lot of big games this week. Huge games. Tennessee, Alabama. Gigantic game. But there's others. Including my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. Let me know if everything's okay with the audio. Let me know if we're good. Please hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. You know all the rest of the story. Share the video. Hit the $ if you want to contribute to this show. Just put on a comment and we'll discuss it. You hit that $. Appreciate your help in growing this channel so much. I put a post on for the first time in our channel discussing this is our 2-month anniversary since the first time we published a video. It was August 10th. Today's October 10th. It's crazy what you guys have done to this channel. I appreciate you so much. But right now we're going to be talking about Matt Rhule. It's a huge story. Huge. Just gigantic because what this guy did in college football, what he has done, is off the charts amazing. Let's first get to, and please put down your comments. I'll get to your comments as soon as we possibly can. Let's just get to the announcement. ESPN, Carolina Panthers fired coach Matt Rhule after a 1-4 start. Matt Rhule has been fired as the coach of the Carolina Panthers less than 6 months after owner David Tepper said it could take 5, maybe 6 years to rebuild an organization capable of sustained excellence. So Matt Rhule got the old pat on the back, right? Got the old pat on the back from the owner of the Carolina Panthers. But according to the article here, Rhule's firing Monday came less than 24 hours after a 37-15 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. And less than 3 years into a 7-year, $62 million contract he was given, Matt Rhule, in January of 2020 to turn around the Panthers the way he did college programs at Temple and Baylor. Rhule is still owed over north of $40 million. That is unbelievable. I mean, he's still owed $40 million, and they decide to go replace him with another coach. What Matt Rhule could not do at Carolina Panthers, he could not find a quarterback. You've got to have a quarterback in the NFL, right? To elevate your program. We're going to go into his coaching record here in college, which is absolutely incredible. For those, okay, here we go. Look at this. Look at what he did in college football. Matt Rhule. At Temple. 2013 was his first season. He went 2-10, right? Temple, a very struggling football program, right? Goes 6-6 in his second year in 2014. In 2015, Temple wins 10 football games, 10-4, and they go to the Boca Raton Bowl. In 2016, he replicates the success. So it's not a flash in the pan at Temple. He goes 10-3, goes to the Military Bowl. Then he goes to the Baylor Bears. We're not going to go talk about the scandals at Baylor Bear, but let's just say it was a football program that could have gotten the death sentence. Things were so crazy at Waco, Texas. Right? There was no organization. There were so much assaults on the campus from the student athletes, from football players that weren't recorded, registered, or even told to the police. We're not going to get into that. But the Baylor Bears football program was down and out. Nobody of any success was going to take that job. A job that had current success in a big Power 5 program. But what does Matt Rhule do? He takes the job. He takes the job. And they go 1-11, 2017. Right? Of course, Baylor Bears, they couldn't recruit. They had penalties. It was a disaster. 1-7. In the second year at Baylor, Matt Rhule. Second year at Baylor, Matt Rhule. Goes 7-6. No one predicted. Go back. Go Google it. Go back into people's predictions. No one predicted Baylor in 2018 to go 7-6. They made a bowl game in Matt Rhule's second year in Waco, Texas. And they win the Texas Bowl. Then in 2019, Baylor goes 11-3. They go to the Sugar Bowl. New York Six Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Baylor Bears, Matt Rhule. Then he takes a job in the NFL, Carolina Panthers. He got that itch, right? He got that NFL itch. He wanted to test himself. The problem in the NFL, now we've seen a lot of successful college head football coaches go to the NFL and struggle. One of the big names is Lou Holtz. A lot of you probably don't remember this, but Lou Holtz had an unbelievable coaching career at Arkansas, built that program up, then went on and coached just a very short time for the New York Jets and failed. Came back to the Gophers, my beloved Gophers, was doing a great job, but then got lured away by Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and he won a national championship with Notre Dame, and the rest is history. A lot of great college coaches go to the NFL and they fail. One of the reasons is because when you're an NFL coach, when you're even a head coach, you're at the mercy of the general manager. You're at the mercy of the owner. You know, things have to go right for you. You got a salary cap. And in the case of North Carolina Panthers, Matt Rhule could never get that quarterback. But as the college coach, as the head coach, you are the lead of everything. The recruiting, the development, the culture. It's a tough job, right? You got to meet with the boosters, and of course you have the faculty, you have the athletic director, but you have more control of your own destiny as a college football head coach. And Matt Rhule has so much respect in the college football world. It's not just that he turned around Temple. It's not just how he turned around Baylor. It's how he did it. He gets incredible high remarks. People are writing columns about him today. They have been writing reports about Matt Rhule for the last few weeks because this was kind of expected to happen, right? Matt Rhule eventually was going to get fired this season from the Carolina Panthers. Many suspected it. So people have been starting to write their reports. People have been writing their reports. What Matt Rhule did at Baylor, for instance. He did an incredible recruiting job at Baylor. Remember, Baylor was completely down and out, and Matt Rhule would, when he went to these camps, he graded these recruits on explosiveness, things that people are doing now every day, but he was sort of ahead of the curve, right? He was able to find these 3 stars and develop them. So Matt Rhule, so what does this mean going forward? Now he's owed $40 million, right? He's owed $40 million. So is he going to just stay home and collect the check? I heard that he was going to get paid $800 and some thousand a month for the next 48 months in a row. That's 4 years of $800,000, like $880,000 a month. That's pretty big money. But knowing people suspect Matt Rhule is just going to get right back into the coaching profession because that's the type of guy he is. And no question about it, college football is where he should be. And he is going to be the number one. Right now, he's the number one guy that most athletic directors are going to target. So these coaching hot boards that we've been doing at Peek Around the Corner, we haven't included the name Matt Rhule because we deemed him unavailable at that point in time. Plus, we also believe that these athletic directors, let's say Trev Alberts, just put him, for example, Nebraska's athletic director. He made the move early on, fired Scott Frost. Mickey Joseph is now the interim head coach in Nebraska. He made the move early on so he could get in front. So he could get in front of the other athletic directors firing their head coaches so he could potentially, call the agents of the potential candidates for the new head coaching job in Nebraska so he could get in front of the line, so to speak. Hold on just 1 second. So he could get in front of the line, right? But Matt Rhule wasn't available. And I think Trev Alberts and other athletic directors, when they fire their head coach this early in the season, are really focusing on available coaches, agents of college programs. But now that Matt Rhule has been fired, man, he would be a great fit for Nebraska. A fantastic fit in Nebraska. As a Golden Gopher, it hurts me to say this, but I think he would be incredible. Remember, I think Matt Rhule is a type of guy who doesn't need a recruiting bed in his front yard. I don't think he needs to be in a location where there are 5 stars all around him in high school. Matt Rhule is a grinder. Matt Rhule is a recruiting grinder. Remember what he did at Temple. No recruiting hotbeds around Temple in Pennsylvania. Right? Look what he did at Baylor. He couldn't get the top recruits at Baylor right away when he was a head coach. But he was a great talent evaluator at Baylor. Think of Matt Rhule. Now, when you're an NFL head coach, you are used to having a pretty big budget, right? I think Matt Rhule is going to want to go to a place that has a lot of resources that can build up and pay for the coaching staff that Matt Rhule would want to have around him. I think Matt Rhule would want to go to a place that has the resources to have a good size recruiting budget, right? The money that they can spend in recruitment to travel, get his coaching staffs out there. And we know the change in college football where, we got NIL, right? Name, image, and likeness. Where money is going to go to these student athletes more and more and these football players. And then we've got in the future, we believe at Peak Around the Corner, there's going to be direct compensation coming from the school and probably, most likely, the conference itself to the student athletes. So I think Matt Rhule, a guy who everybody's going to call, right? Think about this. Hang with me here. That everybody's going to call. He's going to want to go to a place that has the resources. The resources. Because he's going to be able to pick and choose. Because he's going to get a lot of phone calls. And I think Nebraska is the spot. A grinder, Matt Rhule, a competent, a mature guy, individual who can go up in the press conference. It doesn't have Trev Alberts isn't going to have to worry about him like he did about Scott Frost. Think about it. I think Nebraska, we haven't done a hot board in a couple weeks. Our Nebraska, Peek Around the Corner Nebraska hot board. For the whole time, we've had Matt Campbell and Bill O'Brien 1 and 2. Maybe we'll do one tomorrow and we'll switch it up. It's going to be number 1, Matt Rhule, number 2, Mickey Joseph, and number 3, Bill O'Brien, right? Matt Campbell, I think the shine has worn off. He's been losing a lot of close games. I don't think Nebraska is going to be all that interested in Matt Campbell anymore. He's a great coach at Iowa State. He's a great coach, but I don't think he's going to be number 1 on the hot board or number 2 or number 3. Mickey Joseph. 2-0 Nebraska is in the Big Ten since Mickey Joseph has taken over as interim head coach in Nebraska. He's got to be up there now. Trev Alberts is going to give him a chance, right? If Nebraska was able to win the Big Ten West and go to the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis, Mickey Joseph is going to get a long look. But other than that, I think Trev Alberts is going big well hunting. Big well hunting, because remember, Nebraska has the resources to land a big well. An incredible fan base, huge fan base. Some challenges in the recruiting aspect of Nebraska, right? Or where they're located. But Matt Rhule would have no problems with that. I don't think he'd have any problems with that challenge. I think he would want the resources, and he'd get it at Nebraska. So, in my opinion, put down your opinions down in the comment section below the video. But in my opinion, it would easily be starting tomorrow, starting right now, Nebraska Cornhuskers hot board. Number 1, Matt Rhule. Number 2, Mickey Joseph. Number 3, Bill O'Brien. Now, what about the other possible athletic directors calling Matt Rhule? Because he's going to get more than just one call from Nebraska. What about Auburn, right? Brian Harsin. He's not long for the job. In fact, since I started this live show about 15 minutes ago, he's probably been fired from Auburn, right? He very well could have been. He's going to get fired one of these days, one of these weeks. So Auburn, they're going to have the resources, obviously, right? Don't know if Matt Rhule wants to go down in that pressure cooker, because he doesn't need to, right? Matt Rhule is going to have his pick, basically his pick of the litter of all these open jobs. If he's not number 1, if he's not the number 1 target in the coaching searches of many of the big-time programs, I don't know who else would be that number 1. Who else would it be if not Matt Rhule? He is so highly respected, unbelievably respected. And I think Nebraska, unfortunately, as a Gopher fan, I think Trev Alberts has got a good shot at landing him. He's definitely going to give him a call. The boosters of Lincoln are definitely going to give him a call. Trying to think, Wisconsin. If you look at Wisconsin's hot board, right? Jim Leonard, defensive coordinator, he's the interim head coach. He's got to be the number 1 guy right now. And if he falters, if Wisconsin doesn't respond to him, if the program, the players do not respond to him in the next 6 games, then, I would have Lance Leipold number 2. Wisconsin will things don't go right under Jim Leonard, you got to believe that Lance Leipold will be a phone call away. They'll call him. I don't know if Lance Leipold is willing to leave Lawrence, Kansas after 1 year or after 2 years. That's the problem I have with putting Lance Leipold on any hot boards. But I will put him on the Wisconsin one. Because remember, Lance Leipold, legendary head coach at Wisconsin Whitewater Division III program. Legendary coach. Incredible success at Wisconsin. Now, according to Lance Leipold and his wife, it sounds like they're okay with, they love Lawrence, Kansas. They want to stay in Lawrence, Kansas. So we'll see if Lance Leipold is a true candidate for any of these other jobs. There is speculation in Kansas, right, from Kansas Jayhawks that have been talking to me, tweeting me, DMing me, saying that Lance Leipold is going to sign an extension, a new contract here with Kansas before this season's over. We'll wait and see about that. It could happen. I know Kansas would love to get that done. Kansas is working on let me see if I can get that column up. New stadium, right? New football stadium, new facilities. They're throwing hundreds and hundreds and millions of dollars at it. Boosters. No tax money, no Kansas tax money going into that. But it does seem like Kansas is making a gigantic investment in their football program. So Lance Leipold's got to look at that as well and say, this is exactly what I want, what my family wants. Let's take a look. At these football games for week 7. Week 7. Unbelievable, fantastic week of football. Thursday night, Baylor, West Virginia. Just that game. Baylor versus West Virginia. Aranda versus Neil Brown. Neil Brown, his seat is getting really warm, really hot there in Morgantown, West Virginia. That would be a big win for him if they could pull that game out in Morgantown. But that is a huge game. And then Saturday, you kick it off, 11 o'clock, Fox. We call it the big noon game. Michigan, once again, is playing the big noon game. Penn State versus Michigan. Penn State versus Michigan. Huge game. In Ann Arbor. Can Penn State pull that game out? Can J.J. McCarthy elevate his play against a big-time program? I'm starting to get a little worried about J.J. McCarthy's downfield throws. If you notice, he hasn't been all that accurate. And Penn State secondary is no joke. They are elite. Franklin's got an elite secondary. Joey Porter Jr., who is he going to be covering in Michigan? Probably Bell, the receiver. He's going to shut him down, right? That's a huge game. Auburn, Ole Miss. Got to be Brian Harson's last game. I keep saying that every week. And I don't mean to laugh about it, but the change is going to be made there in Auburn pretty soon. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss is rated 9th in the country. Lane Kiffin's got a huge running game going there. And then you got Kansas versus Oklahoma. The Sooners are flat on their backs. Kansas did not move out of the top 25 after their loss at home against TCU. Kansas, Lance Leipold, what an amazing job. Illinois versus my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. Gophers need to win that game. I don't think Illinois' quarterback Tommy DeVito is going to play. Don't know about Juice Williams, the receiver. Is he in concussion protocol? Let me know in the comments below if you know any information on that. The Golden Gophers sound like Mo Ibrahim. Their amazing running back, Heisman Mo, is going to be available to play. He didn't play against Purdue in their loss If he can play, I know the line has it Gophers -4. We're going to be doing a live watch party here on this YouTube channel at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. 11 o'clock, be there, Gophers, Illinois. Right? So, Miami of Florida plays Virginia Tech. Both teams struggling. We all expected Virginia Tech Hokies to struggle. But Miami of Florida, my goodness. My goodness. Mario Cristobal. He hasn't met the expectations of the Miami Hurricane fans. And, of course, those expectations were set too high, right? He was walking into a buzzsaw where expectations were way higher than the potential of the Hurricanes. But I still had Miami having a good season. But that wide receiver room, not good. That secondary, giving up huge plays. I still think Van Dyke's a good quarterback. I think he's a decent quarterback. But man, oh man, that defense, they give up big plays constantly. Middle Tennessee, they're giving up bombs left and right, and they gave up some huge plays against a great offense in North Carolina. But still, Miami, Mario Cristobal better hope he wins that game. Okay? Then you've got Georgia, the #1 team in the country against Vanderbilt. That is not a big game. But Georgia, should they still be #1? Put your comments down in the comments section. Really? Should there be They barely beat Missouri 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, they didn't play good against Kent State. I think the Buckeyes should be #1. And then Alabama, Tennessee, CBS, 3:30 Eastern Time, the game of the week. #3, Alabama. Bryce Young, I'm sure, will be back for that game against Hendon Hooker and the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm going to be riding high on the Volunteers. I'm going to be having them every which way. My picks, my selections every week, my record has fallen. I am 24, 26-1. So I have collapsed. And we predicted that collapse weeks ago. And it has happened. But this week, tomorrow's prediction. Tuesdays is my episode for predictions. And I'm going to be having Tennessee more than one way. I'm going to be having them the spread, the first half spread. Tennessee, I'm going to be leaning heavily on the Volunteers to try to get myself going. I think Tennessee's going to win that game. It's in Tennessee, right? It's in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's going to be a fantastic game. But let's not forget the other mammoth game on ABC. Undefeated. Oklahoma State Cowboys versus undefeated TCU Horned Frogs. The battle for first place in the Big 12. Big game. Max Duggan, the quarterback at TCU, have an incredible year. Tough guy. Tough kid. Tough kid. I know the Gophers thought they were going to get him years ago in the recruiting wars. Gary Patterson came at the last moment and swooped him up. And this is probably his last year in college. He's had some injuries over the years, but he's ending it on a high note. He's going to get drafted in the NFL draft next spring. Max Duggan, TCU, Oklahoma State. And then North Carolina State, Syracuse. That's another big game. Undefeated Syracuse against North Carolina State. And North Carolina State's going to be missing their quarterback, Devin Leary. Right? Devin Leary. He got injured. I don't think he's playing. I haven't heard any reports that he is playing. I can't believe he would play. I think he was badly hurt. And he's a fantastic player. North Carolina State's going to miss him. Syracuse has a chance to go 6-0. The Orangemen with Sean Tucker, the great running back. Wow. And that's going to be played at the Dome in Syracuse. Wow. Arkansas, BYU, both coming off losses once again. BYU lost a tough game at Notre Dame. Arkansas got blown out and was without KJ Jefferson last week. So it's a big game. big game of college football, week 7. It's going to determine a lot. The evil Wisconsin Badgers play Michigan State at Michigan State. Rooting for the Spartans, but I do not expect much from Mel Tucker's team for the rest of the year. They are hurting. The secondary is a disaster. It's absolutely shattered. Even Graham Mertz will be able to take advantage of the Michigan State Spartans. I'm not a fan of Graham Mertz. I think he has problem processing the field. Wisconsin receiver room is weak. But I think the Badgers are going to get the job done against Michigan State. Michigan State just got walloped against Ohio State. I don't think there's much left in the tank, in the Spartans' tank for this rest of the season. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the Spartans can spring the upset and beat the evil Badgers. Arizona, Washington. Washington's been stumbling around. Huskies have been stumbling around. I know their quarterback got a little nicked up at the end of that game. And Arizona, who they lost last week, but they're playing better. They're playing better this season. Clemson, Florida State. At Florida State. Right? Florida State just lost their running back. He's injured. Trayshawn. I saw a picture. He was in the hospital bed. It was his picture that he put out on Instagram. This is only one of the very few games that Clemson can possibly lose, for the rest of the season. If Clemson wins this game, man, oh man, they might have that. They have that pathway to the college football playoffs. They definitely have that pathway all set up for them. And I didn't think they would do it this year. I didn't think Clemson would have a chance to make the college football playoffs this year because of their quarterback play. But DJ Ungale has been very, very, very good. He has developed into a very seasoned, good college football quarterback. Notre Dame, Stanford. Can Drew Pine keep it going? Then quarterbacks, Notre Dame's backup quarterback who came in for Tyler Buckner off an injury. Can Notre Dame, Drew Pine, keep it going for Notre Dame? Can they get this win streak? Can they keep it going? Mississippi State and Kentucky. These two teams don't like each other. Kentucky just got defeated by South Carolina. And now they're back home. Stoops versus Leach. I got Mississippi State. I got Mississippi State in that game. Nebraska at Purdue. Wow. Purdue's won 2 Big Ten games in a row. Nebraska's won 2 Big Ten games in a row. That's being played at night on the Big Ten Network. 7:30 Eastern Time. Mickey Joseph versus Jeff Brom. Can Nebraska keep it going? Right? This is a big audition for Mickey Joseph. He's done the job so far. They won 14-13. It was an ugly game. It was an ugly win. Right? But they got it done. Those were the games that Nebraska were losing under Scott Frost. But Nebraska got it done. So we'll see. But O'Donnell is a whole different beast for Nebraska to defend. He's having a great year, quarterback for Purdue. He's the best quarterback in the Western Division, Big Ten West. They got a little bit of a running game going now, and their defense is holding up. So Jeff Brom's got something going. I would deem them right now as the favorites to win the Big Ten West. USC, Utah. Huge game at Utah. Utah has been struggling, but can they nip USC at home in Salt Lake City? USC is overperformed, in my opinion. Way overperformed. Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams he's kind of a little bit of a roller coaster this year, but he's ebbing upward right now. He's playing better. USC, Utah, North Carolina, starting to creep in possibly to the top 25 again if they can beat Duke at Duke. North Carolina, Duke. That quarterback, that May guy, man, he's good. That young quarterback in North Carolina, watched him carve up the Miami Hurricanes last Saturday. Washington State, Oregon State, both very competitive teams. Oregon State won in a miracle last week. So a lot of big games. Lots of big games. Lots of huge games. But again, we get back to the story of the day. Matt Rhule, fired from the Carolina Panthers. Matt Rhule, the number one target for many athletic directors going into the rest of this season here in 2022. An amazing career in college football. Turned around Temple. They were 2-10, 6-6, 10-4, 10-3, and at Baylor. One after a huge scandal that engulfed Waco, Texas, that engulfed the university and the campus. After sexual assaults were not registered, reported on under Title IX, Baylor, desperate for a change, they need a miracle man. They went and got Matt Rhule, and he was the miracle man for Baylor. They go 1-11, 7-6, 11-3, and then he went off to the NFL. Well, now he is available. He is available, and I think he's going to be Nebraska's number one guy. Number one guy. Nebraska Cornhuskers. Can you imagine Trev Alberts hiring Matt Rhule with all those resources down at Lincoln, Nebraska? I think it's a very scary situation for teams like mine, right? Minnesota, right? Who have been able to elevate their program above Nebraska's here in the last 5 years. But Matt Rhule down at Lincoln, Nebraska, watch out. Watch out. Well, that was it for us today. Thank you for joining us here at Peek Around the Corner. We needed to do this live show. Matt Rhule, that's a big breaking story. I know it's a story that many have been waiting for, right? Even the Auburn fans who haven't lost their head coach yet, they're looking at Matt Rhule. Their message boards are filled with Matt Rhule threads. Nebraska's board is filled with Matt Rhule threads. Even Wisconsin, they're talking about it. Matt Rhule coming back to college football. And he is going to do it at some point. I think it'll be next year. These guys don't like to take a whole year off because they lose touch, right? College football is about recruiting. Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. Recruiting. Matt Rhule has been away from college football for the last 3 years. To take another year off, it might hurt him a bit, right? So he wants to get in there. And I think he wants to go to a place that has the resources for the recruiting budget to get the coaching staff Matt Rhule would want to have. So I think he's going somewhere big, probably somewhere in the SEC or the Big Ten. And to me, I think Nebraska, Matt Rhule would be very dynamic. I'm scared about it because I'm a Gopher fan. I'm very scared about it, but I think it's a strong possibility of happening. So this week in my new Nebraska hot board, I think we're up to hot board 5.0. Number 1, Matt Rhule. Number 2, Mickey Joseph. Number 3, Bill O'Brien. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thanks.